Greetings, peace, and love. Welcome to the Cornish Temple. Dithda Latif Imbriunve. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll be doing a demonstration in regards to Ireland and the Irish. Ethnic and religious cleansing in Ireland became a model for Native Americans being cleared from the Chesapeake. During the Cromwell era, still more were displaced, and Ireland became a major source of slaves for the New World. Shipments of children continued from England and then from Ireland for decades. Many of these migrants were little more than toddlers. In 1661, the wife of a man who imported 4 Irish boys into Maryland as servants wondered why her husband had not brought some cradles to have rocked them, as they were so little. A third group were the Irish. For centuries, Ireland had been something of a special case in English colonial history. From the Anglo-Normans onward, the Irish were dehumanized, described as savages, so making their murder and displacement appear all the more justified. The colonization of Ireland provided experience and drive for experiments further afield, not to mention large number of workers, coerced, transported, or persuaded. Under Oliver Cromwell's ethnic cleansing policy in Ireland, unknown numbers of Catholic men, women, and children were forcibly transported to the colonies, and it did not end with Cromwell. For at least another 100 years, forced transportation continued as a fact of life in Ireland. Walter Blumenthal suggests that it is not improbable that the number of browbeaten indentured servants, transportees, convicts, and kidnapped may have together exceeded 10,000 in certain years. This was especially likely during the middle years of the 1600s, when Cromwellian excesses were at the highest in Ireland. The Elizabethan period, young blades went to Ireland to prove themselves and get rich. Sir Walter Raleigh and his half-brother Sir Humphrey Gilbert went to make war. The poet Edmund Spenser settled there to lead the life of a gentleman on a confiscated estate near the occupied Raleigh. There were risks, of course. Ireland was where court favorite the Earl of Essex ended his career in bloodshed and failure despite the assistance of the ruthless Francis Drake. What happened in Ireland over several centuries had a direct bearing on how the first English settlers in America were approached and developed. Many great English adventurers and soldiers learned their craft in Ireland before searching for greater and easier pickings farther west. The immigrants from Ireland included the Scottish-Irish, Scots who had settled in Ulster. Many were moved to go because their particular non-conformist religion was officially discouraged at home. They found support and welcome in colonies such as Delaware and Pennsylvania. This was particularly the case after the restoration of the English crown in 1660, when the official view on dissenting religions hardened. The impelled Irish Quakers to settle in Pennsylvania, the first Quaker state, in New Jersey. In the 18th century, Presbyterian ministers in Ireland began to lead their congregation to America, especially to Carolina, seeing themselves as leaders of flocks of lost people in search of the promised land. Their zeal was no doubt sharpened by the official financial inducements offered for ministers to immigrate. The Test Act of 1704 impelled more dissenters to make the journey from Ireland to America, for it not only barred them from high office but also ruled their marriages invalid. The Irish Catholic experience was driven by a similar policy of expulsion. The Reformation under Henry VIII did not impinge all that much on Ireland. But under Elizabeth, the desire to impose Irish uniformity of religion upon Ireland became much more strident. By the middle of the 1600s, Irish Catholics, the vast majority of the people, found themselves subject to an English scheme to eradicate them. The English thought of the Irish as uncivilized, despite their uncanny ability to entice colonists into taking on their culture. See, that just proves that all colonizers have narrow minds and feel that if you are not practicing their customs, then you're uncivilized. But once they sit down and get to know you, they find out that they're the ones inferior. Vikings, Normans, Welsh, Scots, and English had gone to Ireland over the centuries, and many had been swallowed up by it, like a lost goblet taken slowly down into the bog. The eminent social and economic historian Ferran Brudel has pointed out that the Irish were seen by the English as different in quality from the Scots or the Welsh. Irish were the enemy, savage, simultaneously despised and feared. The English in America thought it reasonable to settle in a land already inhabited by others. They viewed the indigenous population as one to conquer, eradicate, and enslave. This view of the world was undoubtedly learned, and it was probably learned in Ireland. By viewing the Irish as barbarians, the English could have no qualms about invading their land. Now, what time we got? Already 7 minutes. Let's jump on over to this. Britain is a word of uncertain origin. The name may have came from the Celtic Britley, painted, applied to the inhabitants because they painted their bodies, or from the Phoenician Barantic, the land of tin, because the Phoenicians visited Cornwall for tin. England is Angleland, the Angles being one of the Teutonic tribes that overran the island. In these modern days, the code word for English is Anglican. Scotland is the land of Scots or wanderers. Ireland may derive its name from Ire, a Spanish chief who has invaded the country early in the Christian era. And I've also read in other literature that Ireland is a modern term. The German Franks who settled among the Celtic tribes of Gaul gave their name to France, themselves deriving it from Franks, a kind of spear which they were armed. Belgium takes its name from the Belgae, who possessed one of the 3 parts of all Gaul in Caesar's time. The Suevi, another tribe mentioned by Caesar, gave their name to Sweden. Holland means marsh ground. Nearly the same meaning is preserved in the present name of the country, Netherlands, the underlands, the lowlands. Denmark is plainly the marsh or territory of the Danes. Austria is Oesteric, the Eastern Empire. Russia is the land of the Barusi, and Rusi is the country of the Rus, a Swedish tribe that overran a part of the land and founded the empire of Novgorod. The name Germany is of uncertain origin. By some, it is supposed to be derived from Deutschgermania, the name of a region in Central Asia. The Germani, a tribe whose name means followers of Buddha, lived in Persia in the days of Herodotus. Switzerland gave its name from Schweiz, the name of the 3 cantons that first asserted their independence of Austria, Spain. Latin Hispania comes from the Phoenician spahan, a rabbit, the country in early times abounding in these animals. Portugal is derived by some of the Portus Cale, the ancient name of Oporto. Others find in the word Portus Gallae the gateway of Gaul. Italy comes either from Attalus, an early tribal chief of the country, or from the Greek Attalos, a young bullock. The Greeks called their country Hellas, and themselves Hellenes. But the Romans roamed the lands from the Gracelli, a tribe of Epirus. Turkey means tributary people. Persia, the land of brightness. Arabia, the district of the desert man. Hindustan, fixed dwelling place. Siam, dark land from the color of the soil. In Ceylon, lions. Japan is a corruption of Zipangu, the name of the country as given by Marco Polo. Egypt is unknown. Morocco is the territory of the Moors, a Barbary that of the Berbers. The desert of Sahara is the needless repetition, for Sahara means desert. Gibraltar is the mountain of Tarif, who with a Saracen army built a castle on the rock in the 8th century. In South Africa, Transvaal is the country beyond the Vale River. And natal owes its name to the fact that it was discovered on Christmas, the dies natalis of Christ. We have already reached 10 minutes. I thank you for coming into Chambers and having the study with me. I will be here for another hour and a half till 11. Again, peace and love to all of my brothers and sisters.